Hi guys, welcome back. And no questions this week. So what I'm going to do is just go over a few Steve Magnus tweets. He puts out some really good stuff. So I actually thought it'd be good to go through a few of them and just give my kind of thoughts on it because um, he gives some good stuff that I'd actually been thinking about and said it nicely. So the first one I want to say is he had was stop trying to prove fitness and start trying to do what is best to get you to the starting line fit, healthy, ready to go. The need to prove oneself comes from insecurity. It's a lack of trust in the plan and the process. And I was literally talking to someone today who, in the plan, say they're getting ready for a marathon in, say, for Dublin, so still about 9 weeks out, and they're like, should I be pushing my long runs? And it's something that's come on a bit where on the program sometimes I'll have long runs of just go easy, like just zone one, max zone two for the long run. Um, but they were wondering, like, say, should they start to push those? And I was like, no, follow the plan. In the plan, as I've said before, like every second week or every third week, we have kind of long run sessions built in, especially as, say, for a marathon, if you think about it like as a 16-week block. So, say we're still 9 weeks out. Well, the first 8 to 8 weeks or so are really about building up the distance that you're doing, but just easy or time on feet essentially. And then we can get a bit more specific from, like, say, 8 weeks, from 8 weeks to kind of 3 weeks left. You can start getting a little bit more specific because you have a decent volume built up, like, so if you're long run, if you haven't got used to running, say, 2 hours or 2 hours 20, um, or 18 miles, 16 miles, up to 20 miles, there's no point pushing that then because your body's not even used to it. Like, you need a base of that as an easier way before you start thinking, let me start adding speed on top of this or trying to get ready for the marathon. And again, I found that it's like really because you're trying to prove fitness or you're trying to be like, oh, well, this, am I actually going to get ready? So a lot of it is trusting the process. Like, so his second part on that is when you train to prove when you've trained to prove you've shifted the goal, it's no longer about building readiness for race day. It's about satisfying your urge to know you're fit right now. That change trades preparation for validation. Like, that's absolutely brilliant as well. I used to say, it's like, well, I didn't come up with this saying, but the saying goes that it's like you're pulling up the tree or you're pulling up the flower to make sure to see if the roots, you're pulling up the the flower to make sure the roots are growing. And it's like you gotta, sometimes you can't prove it without ruining the progress. So that's what can happen a lot of times. People worry about, like, am I getting fit? And rather than like scheduling in their races as they go, like having a half marathon race or having a thing, there's two things I'm seeing. One is that they start sporadically putting in races. What do I mean? Like, there might be just a race on, but it's not in the calendar. Say the half marathon that they're meant to do is in like 3 weeks' time, but they're like, oh, there's a half marathon on this week, so I just jumped into it. And it's not really part of the plan. So, or as we happen there, that they they're meant to be doing an easy run, but they're like, you know what, I tipped up into like zone three there, and I like tried to do a few miles at marathon pace just to make sure that I'm able for it on my long runs. And it's like, look, we're not there in the plan. Like, are you training to prove your fitness or are you training to build readiness for the race day? Because he says that if you're trying to prove where you are, this is usually two things happens on the race day. First is you've wasted your bullet in practice and you can show up drained physically and emotionally. Because there is a lot of trust in a training plan. You have to know that it's like we're going to build and then we're going to have our taper to allow this big push. And there is this gradual progression in progress that mightn't be there if you decide to, like, start pushing more than you're meant to be, because you're not like then building. You're like, let's see if I have the fitness. So you could actually go in overcooked then because you're pushing it too much. Or you smashed the workout, got the validation you craved, and constantly check the box like it's mission accomplished. So it could be like, well, I know I can do it, and then you need sometimes those nerves coming into it. It's like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready or not. In both cases, the race is no longer the test, as you've already proved it in training. And he says then training is supposed to leave you with some doubt. It's not on a final exam, it's a rehearsal. Its job is to prepare you, not to prove you. Yeah, and that's really good. It's like to prepare you, not to prove you. Like it's there to prepare. And I've gone into so many races not really knowing. Now, look, there is a difference. Like in the training, there should be stuff in your training that indicates how you're going to race. Okay, so like if you should see over the weeks that like you're covering more distance, or your AT pace is getting a little, like getting faster for the same heart rate. But these things should naturally come along. Um, if you treated every session like a big test, you'll either burn out or peak too soon. Doubt is a feature, not a flaw. Like, and that's so true. You're going to go into the race a little bit like, oh, I don't know how it's going to go. You might think, especially like I've had it with a couple of people. We talked about last week. Someone's like, I haven't done a prep this way before. That's fine. Like it's about, in ways it's about that. It's about learning how to, you know, try something different, because again, if you're just trying the same thing all the time, one, it gets a little bit boring. It's about a kind of exploration and discovery, and that's going to be one of the tweets later as well. If it doesn't work, like you can go back to what you were doing, but a lot of times it is about just keeping the faith, um, being a little bit nervous, being a little bit unsure, and then seeing it on the day because you got the adrenaline, you got everything to, before the week or two before races, our coach would be like, keep the tiger in the cage. Like, if you could go faster, like he'd always do a thing. Say if there's a group of five of us, um, I was always the kind of fastest, but then my aerobic back then wasn't that great. But he would always put the slowest person to lead the rep. So, for example, when it was getting into like the faster stuff, he'd put one of the guys who was a bit slower, and you'd just be there like, and he'd say, you can't go past, say, John, for example, and you'd just be there like, oh my God, John, can you move? Like, but he's like stopping you, absolutely smashing it, trying stopping you, proving what you have, and it's the same. Then I'd be wrecked. I remember one training session. It was like track work, and I was kind of trying to improve the or impress the guys. So I remember doing the last 453 seconds, which is quite fast to be fair. And then I was like, we had 10 minutes of AT to do after. And I was saying, Lindsay is my coach, and I was like, oh, Lindsay, I'm like, shin is a bit sore. He's like, you'll be fine. Like, come over. And it's like, she'll be okay. And then he's like, okay, Owen has to lead this rep. And again, these are all marathon boys who are in the session. So I would have put like 10 seconds into them over 400 meters. And then they are all behind. I am, I am dying trying to lead them out, like, because I have to stay on my heart rate. And I was a bit above it, but I was still slow for them at that time. But he knew what he's doing, because then they're all chomping at the bit to start going faster, but they have to stay behind me. So there is that thing of, yeah, like keeping the tiger in the cage, not trying to, have a big test. And I've also had it where before I took a year full time, and I was like that, trying to take everything serious, but taking it way too serious. Like every session I was trying to prepare for, like I'd go for a nap, I'd listen, I'd eat like exactly the right things. And actually it's too much emotion to put into a session. When I went to Newcastle, then I was doing my masters, and a lot of times the workouts were like sessions were like 8:30 in the morning or 9. So, and we had to go a lot of ways. So it'd be like down Porridge, get a bike, get a lad like cycle maybe 20 minutes, then get a lift off a guy to go to get out to where the session was, and just like roll out and do it. And like you're just getting things chalked off the list, and we'll talk about that in the next one as well. So the best athletes in the world don't seek certainty from every workout. They know fitness isn't proven in a single rep or set. It's built through layers of consistent work stacked over weeks and months. That's why they can back off when needed, trust the plan will deliver when it matters. And again, we've had that before where people are talking about like, can I leave out speed work? Because when I do the speed work, I tend to get injured. And the problem comes down to it's like, well, you're pushing your speed work too much. Just trying to do like, say, a 5K effort, even if it's like 30 seconds per K slower than your 5K, you're still getting that kind of rhythm work that's needed. So trusting the plan, trusting the bits, and not trying to push it to the nth degree. In fact, always keeping a little bit. I try to finish every session now, honestly, every session feeling like I could do one more rep. You should always feel like, so if you're doing 5 by 7 minutes, for example, you should feel like I could do another. If someone said it to me, do one more, you could. If it's 10 by 400, you should feel like I could do another one easy. So you should probably feel like you could do another two of those. Um, yeah, so sorry, I'm just trying to get I have a little thing that doesn't make me like it's come on now. Like it stops you being on Twitter or Instagram too long. So I only have 15 minutes before it gives me a little like, will you sign out? Uh, when proving is the goal, training becomes about ego. When preparing is the goal, and I wouldn't even say ego. Sometimes it's more ego or fear. You're worried about how it's going to go, so you start pushing yourself a bit too far. When preparing is a goal, training is about growth. One leaves you fragile because missing a target feels like a collapse. The other leaves you resilient because progress is measured over time, not a single day. And I always say that to people. That's what's great about using your heart rate monitor. It's like if the pace is down, you're still getting the aerobic stimulus that you should be getting for this week. So stop trying to prove fitness, start preparing to perform. Trust the process, trust the plan, and trust the readiness shows up when it is most, when you need it most. That is the real test. It doesn't happen in practice, it happens on race day. And again, the more you do that, the more times you get, you trust the process works, the more it's easier to trust back into it. But the first few times you just have to take the leap and like follow the plan. And as I said, it's so funny. I was going through these and it's like that's what I was going to try to talk about. And he talked about that nicely. And this next one is similar. I don't know if you have any questions, Mike or Monica, or anything to say on that.
No, that all makes sense. It's kind of very relevant for me at the
Wait
moment.
there, I can't hear you
Oh,
because I have this shagging. Can you talk again, Mike? Sorry.
yeah, can you hear me
I'll
okay?
just plug this. Can you say it one more time?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Could be. Yeah, you can. No, it does make sense because I'm kind of adopting the new plan at the moment, and I would have probably hammered myself in certain sessions maybe too hard. So there's definitely a bit of kind of restraint needed.
Yeah, sorry, you were who I was thinking about, Mike. You were talking to me about going on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Zoom 3. That's exactly like, and I saw that tweet. I was like, that's exactly what I want to talk about.
yeah, yeah. So that's really good. Yeah, kind of
Yeah,
trust
because
it.
it is that thing. It's like trusting the plan that like, and I know it's hard. If um, you're used to seeing it in a certain way. You're used to do it, especially if you're used to doing like, well, I've always done my long runs this way.
Yeah,
That has always been my session. It can be, it can be hard then to switch it and it's like okay, I'm just doing this very easy, but like as you said, like what we're trying to do is that process of like right, rather than just building specific long run pace, what we're trying to do now is build build aerobic benefit with the two kind of
yeah,
sessions, build like 10K kind of pace in your legs and then also have like time on your feet, but then because we're getting those other two sessions done, yes, we'll get up to, we're up, I think you're doing like 2 hours or something now, 220, but like
yeah,
you'll still get a lot of distance covered, but we want that zone one, two to recover. And then I literally even just added in an additional long run session into your plan in like 2, 3 weeks time.
yes,
Because I know you kind of want them. So I was
yeah,
like, you know what, I'll just add in another one of those. But so that's like say a 2 hour run that has like a big chunky session in the middle, like 20 minutes of steady, 15 minutes at like kind of marathon pace, 10 minutes a little bit faster than that, five
yeah.
minutes a bit
Broken up.
faster than that, with 5 minutes like
Yeah,
steady jogging in between. But yeah, so that's exactly it. It's like it can be hard, but you don't want to, you know, like lift up the flower. I can't remember the way that is. You know, it's like checking the roots to make sure the flower is growing. There is that thing in running where you need to let it percolate and just let it cook, and you need to trust the thing that's written down, because what can happen is you're like, well, I'll do, and I know you're kind of that type A. It's like I'll do all the training, I'll do all the harder training, and then I'll also do the thing I used to do before, and then you can.
Yeah, you feel like, oh, I need to sprinkle that back in there because that's what I did. But
Yeah,
it was good. The heart rate, I was the most restrained I ever was in a long run on Sunday now, which was
brilliant.
strange. And even as the run went on, my heart rate was, it took a lot to keep the heart rate down, below where it should have been.
Yes,
But
yeah,
then again, the Saturday session then and was really, intense. Like that was the threshold session. So I was kind of it's kind of you're getting a mix of both over the weekend anyway, and you're getting a good kind of in zone 4 session on a Saturday,
yeah,
which is good.
exactly. And what we do, like Peter Lynch, when he's doing it, like now, obviously it's different, but like just to compare like a 209 marathon, man, all their stuff is either kind of your long runs, like easy essentially, and then hard sessions, like so
Yeah,
they're really getting the legs turning. Where, as I said, that kind of traditional training is, well, one, it's they don't, people are just covering the distance, and then kind of smart runners like yourself are kind of knowing like, oh, well, I can't just do easy all the time. So they kind of make the long run a session plus the long run. So
yeah,
like, whereas this way, Mike, you've had a hard session on Saturday, so the legs are still tired on Sunday. So just even going easy, it's when we do a long run and you're out for 2 hours 20 in the marathon, you won't have the kind of leg fatigue that you have this week, that way. Like
yeah.
you'll see when I put that one in, the long run becomes the session. So essentially we're doing 4 sessions every 2 weeks, essentially, like, and that'll be more as we go on. But now we have to increase the distance that we're getting it covered, so
Hmm.
the time on feet becomes a bit more important. So no, I'm glad you saw that, and it's glad that you're on today. So it's that's exactly. I hope I don't mean to be calling you
Yeah,
out, but I was like, that was exactly what I was thinking. I was like, this is
yeah,
all that. It's like it's just that little bit of fear that it's like, shit, I always do this and I haven't done a lot of this yet. And it
yes,
was the same with someone else, said literally the same kind of thing as you. They were like, I haven't done it this way before. Um, and I'm worried, like, that I'm not going to get it done. And I'm like, look, trust it. And I have another girl who, again, she's nearly putting in random races, and I'm like, just if you can stick with it, I know it'll be difficult, and then it's easy to adapt afterwards, and see what we could do different or not. But I think it's going to be, I've seen it loads of times where it'll be deceptive, like, on the success.
yeah. No, it's good just to trust it and something completely different. But I get it. Like I was still tired on Sunday after the run. Like it was a long. It wasn't fast, but it was still a long time on my feet. So yeah, I was tired at the end anyway. So
Yeah, exactly.
like I
Because
felt
all
like
those
there was a
runs,
good session there either way.
exactly, all those runs are for is time on your feet. It's like getting used to being out there and your body able to sustain that, and then it's putting all the other pieces together. Especially when we're 9 weeks out, it's not about getting super specific yet, because it's too far out now to try that. Whereas
Hmm.
what we kind of want to do, what we want to do more in this plan than you've probably done in the past is, in other plans, right? Like the kind of more generic plans, they're very about
Hmm.
like just getting up your distance and getting used to that. So they're very specific to the marathon distance from the very start. It's about like, oh, running longer, uh, which is fine, right? But running longer from early on, and you do need that. That's why you're out for long runs. Like you do need the
Yeah,
long runs, but they're not putting the pieces together. Like they're not doing the 5K, 10K stuff every so often. They're not doing the lactic threshold stuff, which is still speed work, but it's also building up the aerobic. They're not building the aerobic zone that you'll
yeah,
see. And then they are doing the long run piece, but we'll do that. And what we'll do is, because we have all these bits closer to from week 8 on, we will start getting a few more like long run sessions in that kind of starts combining that, but a
That
bit of
gets more
it is,
specific. Yeah.
yeah, because like I say this story before where um I was like my friends when I was over at that Masters, I lived with three other people. They were fit and healthy, but they weren't like runners at all. And there was a 10K in Gateshead, and they were like, "Oh, we'll just do this 10K." So I'm out running. So they're obviously too slow for me, like, so I'm not running with them. But they're going out like 3 days a week. I'm like, "Oh, great." And after a few weeks, I was like, "Oh, like what do you do?" You know, like because no
Hmm.
one asked me, and like all the class were nearly doing it, and it was like, "Oh, we just go out and run 10K as hard as we can." And I was like, there's not one runner, like elite runner in the world, who ever runs 10K as fast for running for a 10K. Like,
Yeah.
for example, during lockdown, I ran like kind of 50 minutes dead, like 50:00, like or 50:05 for 10 miles. I say if there's a clock, I would have got underneath, but sure, look.
Yeah.
Um, but I had never ran before that. Like, I had never ran in the 50s for 10 miles. Like, so I'd never gone out and done, I'd either been doing like a progressive long run that might be like 60 minutes or 62 minutes, or I've been doing like, I did 6 by a mile of a session at 5 minute miling. So the first time, it's like that thing with the, like, you're going in and
You
you
haven't
aren't
done it.
sure if you're going to get it, but you have to do it that way. If you're going to do your best, you have to kind of have all the pieces together and then just
Yeah.
put it all like together for the run. Whereas a lot of times people are like, "Oh, I'm going to run hard for 20 miles, like as my race." It's
Yeah.
like you're burning a lot of, or 18 miles. It's
That
like you're burning a
that would have
lot
been
of stuff.
the way we kind of would have done it. And then there's the club runners as well from the area, and there's a bunch of us are kind of old school. We get together on a Sunday and we give each other a kicking like over the course of whatever
Yeah,
10 to 15, 20 miles, and they'd be you'd be wrecked after it or whatever. But
yeah, exactly. It's kind of a mini race, like.
yeah, almost like that. Like yeah, probably get some adaptation out of it, or adaptation out of it. But it's tough. Like, and it's this is different. Just
Yeah, you
yeah,
definitely do get adaptation, but the problem is it gets very samey and it gets very specific.
yeah,
Whereas like if we actually take all the you take in all the pieces, it allows you to build a kind of better cake. You've got
yeah,
more ingredients to put into the end, to
yeah.
kind of crescendo it up. Yeah. So no,
Uh, this is
it's
more interesting than like because I would have thought it's advanced marathoning and marathoning, which would be a lot of medium long runs, a lot of long runs, a lot of all of that volume.
yeah,
But it is very monotonous, and if this has got a lot more kind of different things happening, which is way more interesting, definitely, definitely.
yeah. And I think there'll be
Than
two things. I think you'll bounce through this nicer, like so. You see when people who get very specific into the marathon, all they do is marathons. So generally they'll have a 16 mile build up. They'll then take maybe 2 to 3 months off nearly, get back into fitness, then hit this. Whereas you'll be able to adapt from like say 5K to the marathon easier because you've kind of hit all the. Okay, we're focusing more on the long runs, obviously, but we're not leaving the speed stuff totally behind us. You know, like or doing a
yeah,
10K or a half marathon is not harder. And two, I don't necessarily mean this badly, like, because I could definitely be criticized, but like a little bit is an advanced marketing is a good book, like, so I'm not going to say anything there. But like in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. And what I mean by that is people have done a marathon, they've got it through this, they've done it a certain way to get through it.
hmm
And then like this is snobby as hell. Like, so hopefully it doesn't come across bad, but like, here's what it is. They don't understand, like, they actually just don't understand, like, physiology. Really. They don't understand, like, what goes into, like, make good running. They know they've done this, they have experience, and that's not to be discounted.
hmm
But that's all they have. So it's like, if that's all you know, that's all you do. And then it's like, well, this is the way you get ready for it. And it's like, yeah, but not really. Like, you can do it a different way.
yeah. There's other ways to go at it.
Yeah, other ways go at it that are much more like as you said, comprehensive than the medium long. Because we
Yeah.
might find, Mike, that you do this one, like, look, I think it'll go really well, and I've seen a lot of PBs, but you might find it's like, okay, next time we'll know you'll need maybe we'll go more of like a medium long during the week.
Yeah, could
But
tweak it.
like the only thing is we are you see what they do as a medium long is if you think about a session of like say 5 by 7 minutes, and if you do say if you did a 20-minute warm up, sometimes
Hmm.
put 12 to 15, but say if you wanted, you could do a 20-minute warm up, 20-minute cool down. Like you'll have 13 miles done,
Yeah,
but the middle six will be like really specific.
yeah, be broken up.
It'd be broken up, it's much
Yeah,
more enjoyable,
yeah,
but it's getting a lot of good work in, like distance wise.
yeah.
Like whereas someone just going out for a 10
15
or
miler or
13 miler,
yeah,
like it's like they're not hitting the same kind
no,
of zones, So yeah, it's just
yeah,
a good one to do. And that's
yeah,
comes to the next one, right? That idea of racing. I'm gonna put in my thing again, but I'll ask you again, Mike, because it's actually great to have the interaction.
no problem.
Thanks a million. I'm gonna put this in, so let me know if you can hear this. My other laptop for some reason. Yeah, actually, yeah, back. All right. My other laptop for some reason just same password just wasn't coming in. All right, so the next one is doing things about 80% effort. And we kind of mentioned this with Mike, where is lads can't get into racing. And it links with that. It's like being 80% all the time beats 100% half of the time. We love the idea of going all in, perfect effort, flawless execution, max intensity. But perfection is fragile. It burns hot and then flames out. Consistency, not occasional perfection, is what compounds into greatness. Think about training. Anyone can smash one perfect workout, but what matters is not what you do once, it's what you repeat. A solid run every day beats a heroic one, followed by 3 days of exhaustion. Progress is built on showing up. That holds true outside sport. Writing one paragraph means little if you never write again for weeks. A single all nighter doesn't outweigh weeks of consistent studying. Parenting, relationships, creativity, they're all consistency sports. Better to be present and steady than perfect and absent. It's like investing, consistent beats time. Psychology breaks up. Biology teaches the same lesson. Adaptation comes from not overwhelming stressors, but from repeated signals over time. Small stressors plus adequate recovery equals growth. Big unsustainable stress equals breakdown. That is so important. And sometimes when people, like I have a friend and he's actually really sensible, but you see it in the gym. People are like, I'm going to do the gym, and they know like I better do a bit because I mightn't be here again, and that's when they get issues. Uh, this I really liked. Perfection creates fragility. Miss one rep, one workout, one day, and the story becomes I failed. Consistency creates resilience. Miss one, you're still on track because you've built up a habit of showing up. The path bends, but it doesn't break. I think that's really important. It's what we were talking about with Mike there. It's like if you're getting the components over time, rather than I used to see it with guys, they wouldn't use heart rate monitors, but they call it quote unquote lactic training sessions. So they go out and do a session, say they might do an 8 miler, but it essentially became a time trial because if the times weren't getting a bit better every week, they're like, oh, I'm going backwards. Versus if you're using your heart rate and not looking at the times, which honestly I don't. I kind of have a general idea of the first ones, but if I'm on my heart rate, I don't mind. It's like you're just getting it in. Or if you have to miss something, you're like, look, I've built up a lot of this stuff over time, as opposed to thinking like, all right, this big session here and putting pressure on yourself. So he just says, stop chasing perfection and start building consistency. Better to be 80%, 100% of the time than 100%, 50% of the time. Wins that last aren't built on heroic moments, they're built on daily, repeatable efforts. That's what we're talking about, Mike, where it's not like some lads would be trying to get these like long runs. I call it the GA mentality. GA are crazy for this. Now it is harder because look, harder. It's harder training 5 times a week, 6 times a week than it is 3 times a week. Like let's call a spade a spade. But like we'd have it where I was training a couple of GA teams, and I must say, club team I was training here at James Stevens, the lads were really dedicated. Like it's funny once you give them a structure, they didn't have a structure before. I'm not training them now. This was a couple of years ago. Um, I'm not sure. They didn't have structure before. They weren't. They didn't know what to do. So obviously they don't do anything. Whereas like, if you tell them do this, they all did it, which was really good. Um, But like that, when you're talking to the coaches, they're like, I'd rather like essentially beast them on a Tuesday, go really hard, and then give them Wednesday and Thursday off, and we'll beast them on a Friday. And I'm like, that's not how it should work. We need to be like a measured session on a Tuesday. Obviously, they're in as a group, so we can do more. But then they need to be doing some light aerobic or some gym on Tuesday and or on Wednesday and Thursday. You know, we might give them a rest day 1 or 2 days in the week, but you need that 5, 6 days in the week versus 3 hard days. It gets you nowhere. It's like no people build actual fitness that way, and you have to look. Success leaves clues. Like so, that's what I said to him. And in fairness, they used to do it, as I said, because they were told like, yeah, you know, hard session, just do something yourselves tomorrow, lads, if you want. Like, do something yourselves is kind of stupid. So it's the same as we're saying there, Mike. As you said, being disciplined on the long run, that allows you then, like, say, because you've done a hard session on the Saturday, you need to be disciplined on the long run, like following the plan. It's not even like, oh, you're not going hard. It's like there's two types of discipline. Like there's a discipline obviously to get out and train, but there's also a discipline of like if lads are going too fast and you know on your heart rate, it's like, look, I'm gonna have to slow down. Uh like I trained with a guy, Thomas Chamney. He was like good friend and all, but like he called me chicken man, like because his aerobic was better than mine. Um Now it was on heart rates, like, but he just wanted company. So he'd be like, "Come on, like, stay with me." I was like, "Dude, I just have to stay. Like, I'm not getting benefit staying with you." Like, so, like, I used to actually get upset at the time. I laugh at it now. It is quite funny. He'd be like on Twitter, he's like, "I'm out running with Chicken Man today. Let's see if you'll stay with me on the threshold." I know the things you get upset about. It's like, dude, stop calling me out on like, because he was an Olympian as well, so he had a good following. Anyway, I must say that to him. He'd laugh. He'd definitely laugh at that. I must send him this clip. Um, so, but like that, you just need the discipline because I knew, well, if I go out, one, I'm not doing a lactic threshold session anymore. It's like a modified VO2 max. It's not in the plan because we're going to be going hard on Saturday again. So it's like that with if the long runs start to get too tasty. You know, Brian Maher, really good runner, is really good at it. What he says to the guys is, we have another guy, I won't say his name, when we're running, he loves going hard on long runs, loves it. Just not an ego, he just pure love of the game, just loves running hard. And Brian would be like, oh, how does he put it? He said so natural, so I'm not going to make it as natural. He's like, oh crap, if you're actually doing a hard one, I didn't know, I'll just leave you off. And then the guy, no, 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 wasn't meant to do a hard one today. Like, I meant to go easy. He's like, oh, okay, well, I'll just be going this pace. So he'll all make it out that he didn't know the guy was doing a session. So I'd be like, geez, yeah, if you're doing a hard long run, I'll leave you off. I didn't realize you were doing that. And then your man just comes back down. So it's yeah, it's just getting that consistency. It's no like not pushing, as we said. You know what I said? You should be at 90%. You should always feel like you have one more, knowing that that's the consistency over time that gets you through. And then yeah, it's a consistency of the time that gets you through and not anything else. Do you have anything to say to that, Mike or Monica? What do you think?
I can definitely relate to the to that element of pushing people. Like as I run with groups on a Sunday, so there's always somebody winding it up, like or
Yeah.
winding up the pace, like, and you're kind of going, gee, like seriously, and somebody's pushing it, and somebody else is saying pull, and it just winds up a bit of a carnage, you know.
Yeah, I think saying that like is um like you're saying beforehand, I'm just going easy if that suits some people, and you might have them. Because what people do sometimes is they're doing that, like they haven't done a session on the Saturday, so they're trying to make the long run basically a session. So they're trying to do a cheeky one. They're trying to get a workout in with company and knowing that they can kind of drag people along. So yeah, it's like having the heart rate monitor on for that and being like, look, I'm wrecked. I'm meant to be keeping. Coach says to keep this at zone two max. Um, like I don't mind every so often it going into zone two, but once it starts going anywhere near zone three, low end zone two is okay. You're probably developing nice aerobic, but you're going to get into trouble. And it is when you're in it, it's hard. It's like but it's just good to kind of pull back. how we used to be with a friend as well, and like again, same guy. He just used to wind it, and me and my other friend, not Brian, James Ettingham, were on a run, and we were just like constantly going for like pee breaks just to break his momentum. So we just go like not pee, we just stop. Because then when it's stopped dead, you could like he'd slow back down, but it's like there's no stopping this guy. So we're like, oh sorry, just gotta go again, and just like stop for a second or two, just so he just gets out. Because when he get flowing, he just he's a lunatic. Okay, next one then. Let's put this back in, and last one I'm going to talk about. Sorry, sorry. This one only has two things. This one only has two things for my headphones are on USB-C, so I actually need two kind of connectors. Okay, and I just have in my charger. So much of what you've been told about the online about fitness and training is wrong. High intensity isn't everything. Zone 2 isn't magic. VO2 isn't density. I don't even know what VO2 density means. Let's bust some fitness myths. High intensity training gives you all you need. That's false. It's one part. It isn't perfect. Plus, there's always overlap and adaptations. Every intensity of exercise works, but none give you everything or close to it. The intense training works best when it's preceded by lots of easy and moderate. It's the icing on the cake. It's not the main dish. Yeah, and I would agree with that. Like that's why we have just our two workouts in the week. You need kind of the base running. And that's what people forget about in marathon. Like in the kind of official training that like say the Dublin Marathon give, I think they're rubbish because they have maybe like 4 miles, 6 or 8 miles, 6 or 8 miles, and then this massive like 16 miles on the weekend. And you need easier running during the week to kind of allow the body to adapt and develop to absorb these much longer runs. Um, so I know people don't like to hear it. Like they'd be better off having a bit more mileage during the week and a shorter long run than these tiny runs. Because again, they're only thinking specifically. They're only thinking, I got this big long run to get ready for, and I'll just do this mad run. And it's again, it's only one part, but it needs the other stuff to allow the adaptation. The Norwegian 4x4 is the best way to improve VO2 max. Nope, it's one workout that does an okay job. There's 100 plus workouts that would do the same or better jobs. It's best to stop looking for a magical workout. Instead, learn to modify the workout, the speed, the reps, the lengths, the recovery pacing to provide a stimulus to adapt. And I like that. I think you'll have your kind of staple type of workouts. Like I love the like Emmett's stuff of 5 by 7 minutes at 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 zone three, 4 by 6 minutes at zone four. But then you will just do different things like as we have it where, we might do 10 minutes of AT and then 10 by 400 at 10K for the VO2 max stuff. But then another week we might do 2 by 5 minutes at LT at zone four, and then 8 by 600, so a different distance with a bit more recovery, just to give the body slightly different stimuluses without like having to change it loads. Uh, Also, what the thing sometimes people do when they focus just on workouts, it's like I was saying to Mike, is they actually just don't understand physiology. They don't understand the underlying premise of what they're trying to achieve. They only know the um they only know the main they only know the session, not the reason for the session, if that makes sense. I was actually going to do before these Magnet Streets, I was actually going to do one on this week on like parables, Bible parables. I think I'll do it. I'll see if I get bored of like little sayings I like that like I think are good like thinking ones. But one that I like is it's about religion. It's like when the prophet or the sage or the wise man essentially points to the moon, all the idiot sees is the finger. And it's that idea about people getting bogged down about like, oh, the Bible like doesn't make sense. Like it's Adam and Eve had two sons and they killed one. Like where did all it's like it's a story, dude. Like it's these are like ideas that you're meant to take, like they're not meant to be really taken literally. And it's the same here. Sometimes it's when you're pointing at the moon, like here's the idea of this, like say our 10 by 400 is it's not, it has to be at this exact pace. It's like just a little bit faster and getting rhythm work. So if you do it at 600s or 800s or things, it's like it all works. Or 4 by a mile, or 5 by a mile. It's like I had it in Limerick. I was down uh, studying down there, and we were doing 5 by a mile. Another guy was doing 8 by a k. That is this literally the same session. It's the same distance. The recoveries are modified, and he's like, "No, I'm going to stick with 8 by a k." That's a guy just not understanding that, like, yeah, dude, like it's the same thing. We could all just work together, and it's going to be much more enjoyable. Zone 2 is the best training. Nope. We do need a lot of easy running to provide a base, but there's not magical about Zone 2. It's a rough guide. You need all the things. Yeah, so that's true, right? What Zone 2 was really good for was for the likes of Mike, for people who were just going out flogging it. Say they're going out on easy runs and they're always just building up, or the guys I was talking about, like they're getting ready for a 10K, they're going to go out doing a 10K. We have the 5 zones for a reason. They should all be in there. In some guys, you might just have Zone 5 as a few strides on a Tuesday to keep the legs turning over as say you get specific to a marathon, or you might have, a little bit of zone, you mightn't have as much Zone 2, maybe the end of a long run, but you're getting a lot of Zone 3 or more Zone 4 and Zone 5 as you get ready for 5K type work. So keeping everything in is the best way. There are gray zones to avoid. There's gray zones in training we should avoid. False. You need everything. Oh my God, it's come out again that like have that minimalist app. It just basically kicks me out if I'm on this a lot, so I don't waste time. But yeah, he would say like you don't like you need everything, like you need all those zones. I do agree though. Sometimes that's what the heart rate monitor is great for. People can fall into gray zones. I think it's just a definition here that's slightly different. He thinks there are no gray zones that you should avoid. Every intensity does something valuable. That's true, but like what Mike was saying, like people can go, I would call like going into Zone 3 just on a run a gray zone. It's not really fast enough to develop your aerobic base. Um, or it's not structured enough, like, as at that time you've got a lot of what we call cardiac drift. So like the pace isn't that good relative to the heart, but it's still putting a lot of pressure on the body and a lot of stress and strain. So we just want to be a bit more specific of what we're doing. Um, yeah, same like people. I find that initially without heart rates, people are very good at what I call like hard recovery runs. They're not going fast enough to actually get into Zone 2 to really start working it, but then they're not going easy enough to really recover. That's a gray zone I don't think you should be in. Postmenopausal women should minimize easy exercise and focus on high intensity. False. Research shows adaptability to various exercise intensities doesn't alter much with age. You still respond to everything. Does detraining with age occur? Absolutely. So sometimes you need a bit more strength work or speed or easy work, but the individuality of the person matters more than the age. It's what the science and the best master runners show us. Yeah. So with that again, it's like don't let, like, obviously look, you get like if you're in menopause or perimenopause, you might need to change. You might need some like go into someone that you trust to see like how you are, but don't let that affect like an actual good training session. You might just have your strength training work, but you still just need a good structured program, and you can't do it exactly like you did in your 20s, but you still do need, like, I don't do as much speed work because I tend to get a little bit injured. So I do more of the strength work, but I still need a bit of the speed work. I do more actual like strength in Pilates and stuff like that to stay injury free and strong. But yeah, it adapts a bit, but the training program has to stay basically the same. You don't go into something absolute bananas because and look, and again, I think sometimes that's the idiot focusing on the finger. It's like some people might just run all the time. And what you want to do is that's fine if you're starting off, but as you develop on your fitness journey, you need to improve. Like I think about nutrition. Um, Laurie's not here, like so she's always my go-to girl for nutrition. But like when I was a good runner at like 16, 17, but wouldn't have been good enough to go to nutritionist. But even when I went to the first nutritionist, they kind of meet you where you are. I was eating white bread and just like crap stuff, like not knowing, thinking I'm doing well. And then you move to like, brown Brennan's brown bread, like, and then you go to like wholemeal pita breads, for example, or you go to like jumbo oats instead of like porridge at nighttime because it's, because it was just eating cereal. So everyone's an adaptation, and it's the same with fitness. Yes, great. Like if you're just going out for runs at the start, but at some stage you got to go. Look, I've been just going out for runs for maybe like six months. Now I need to actually put a structure or a program in place. It'll be way more enjoyable, and it'll allow the kind of bigger benefits to occur. If you cross into a new zone, the adaptation changes completely. No, zones aren't distinct barriers. Honestly, most don't even have much of a physiological basis. They are just rough way to classify training to make it easier on us. Yeah, it's a deal with the messiness of physiology and training. Think of them as rough rules of thumb instead of laws. That's true. Like if you're at the very, we used a hybrid engine, so it's like the aerobic and anaerobic are always a slightly mixed. So if you're at the high end of zone two, you are also like getting kind of the benefit of you would be in the low end of zone three. It's not like we're just in zone three, we're just in zone two. They're just nice ways of like adapting to stresses. I always think that's like, so you can be, especially like with your zone four, we can be a bit conservative. Don't feel like if the top of your zone is say 170, you have to be at 169. If you're at 167, 166, you're still getting a benefit. If you're going up a hill and it goes up to 172 for like 2 minutes, but then comes back down to 169 or 170, you're golden. Yeah. So I like that as well. VO2 max is the be all and end all for health and longevity. Nope, it's often reported that VO2 max is the best predictor of longevity. That's close. But most of the research says something better. They use aerobic performance, the speed at the end of an exhaustive test, a time trial or submax test at a sustained heart rate. In other words, going down to your local track and running a mile or 3K hard or the equivalent in their sports is what research shows has the best predictor of longevity. Look, and that's more the kind of Huberman, Altea, is that Peter Altea? They're trying to explain the benefits of aerobic running and zone two running and VO2 max to the punters. So I think if you're on this call or listening to this, you're a lot more advanced than that. Running ruins your knees. Research consistently shows the opposite. Runners tend to have lower rates of knee arthritis than sedentary people. It's not running that breaks knees, it's the poor progression, overuse, and lack of strength work to support the load. That's why we're doing our Pilates, and then keeping healthy is really good for the you have to feel smashed after training for your work. Nope. Being exhausted isn't proof of adaptation. It's often proof you went too hard. Progress comes from the right stimulus, not the most punishing one. Smart training often feels controlled, not crushing. Now, I will say this though, even for your hard workouts, there's a reason famed coach Arthur Lydiard said, train, don't strain. Yeah, and that's very true. That's where I'm saying, but like, don't be worried if you're listening to that going, God, I feel wrecked at the like for the whole day. Someone was talking to me today about that. It's like I really feel wrecked for the whole day after a hard workout. It's like, look, that happens. Like, like running is being constantly tired, but we don't want to feel like we're panned out or like dreading sessions. Don't be afraid to go into a session and feel your way into it. You shouldn't be having to gear up for running sessions. You should just go into it, but you will be tired after it. Especially like say like Mike or someone, if we're in the middle of a big block, that's why we have down blocks after it. Okay, I'm gonna go, guys. Hope you enjoyed that one. Thanks, Mike, for contributing. Thanks, Monica, for attending.
Thanks,
And
so.
yeah, talk soon.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.
Right.
Yeah. Do you have any questions? Sorry, Monica or Anthony, before we go? No, happy enough.
No questions. Thanks, Owen.
Brilliant. See you guys.
See
Take
you
care.
later. Bye. Bye.
Bye.